Good to see everyone. If you want to say hi in the chat as you come in, you're welcome to. Maybe say hi and then, maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs about something you want to complain about in life or a person. Let me tell you how my day went, David. You don't even know. Yeah, I'll just give folks another minute to come in. How is everyone doing? Good to see you all. Hello. I got one hello. All right. Oh, there we go. Hi. Hello. Hello. It's great to be here with you all. Tonight we got a pretty cool class. As you come in, if you're here live, I would love to know, by the way, does my mic sound okay? You guys hear me good? I would love to know, for those of you who are here live, how long you've been in meditation school with me. So maybe you could put how many months, or if it's been over a year, just so I get a sense of, is this your first night? Is this your 34th class? Are you tired of my jokes? 2 months, 3 months, 9 months? Cool. At the beginning, 7, 15. I didn't even know I was doing it for 15. That's probably about when I started. Great. 1, 2. Okay. So the reason that I ask is when, well, first of all, there's this quote that I love that I wanted to share, that motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. So you know that that experience we all have January 1st when we're like, I'm so jacked up right now to get fit. I'm starting a new diet. I'm doing David's meditation program. Woo! And then January 7th, you're like, I fucking hate everyone. I quit. It's the worst year ever. And then by like January 11th, you kind of keel out, even out a little bit. we all go through that. I heard someone say the other day that inspiration is perishable. It goes bad after a while. You get that motivation, that inspiration, woo! But that high is not going to keep going. What keeps you going truly is habit. It's building a habit, and there's a threshold in meditation and spiritual growth, probably similar to in almost anything in life. But there's a moment in meditation practice where you cross this threshold, where you really recognize that you start to feel worse without it, and it becomes easier to meditate than to not meditate. So there's like this trajectory as you're going up the mountain where it's like hard to sit down and meditate every day, and some days it's really rough and there's a lot of resistance and pain. But then you cross this threshold where it actually becomes harder to not meditate, and you have to sit and really work your energy, because that's what brings you back to center and keeps you sane. Otherwise, you might go insane. Meditation really does keep us sane to a pretty large extent if we use it properly. So if you haven't crossed that threshold, that's okay. Habit, keep going, keep doing it, keep practicing. If you have, congratulations. Don't get obsessive. You don't need to sit to meditate every time you feel an inkling of resistance. You can approach life with your eyes open as well. But it's a great threshold to cross. And the other thing that I wanted to mention that happens after a while is what we have, these things called growth periods. And sometimes a growth period can feel really good. Like, wow, I'm really rocking it, making progress. I'm a huge difference in my life. I'm sleeping better. Relationships are better. And other times a growth period can be like, oh my God, fire coming out of the eyes. Nothing is working. I'm so frustrated. Why does everybody hate me? Why is everyone judgmental? Why is everyone so negative? You know, you might get all these growth periods about your past, about your relationships, about your career, about different energies in life. And so if you hit one of those patches, one of those growth periods, and you might notice it's related to whatever you're working on in meditation or in class here with me, or listening to something, and that's okay. So growth periods have a beginning and they have an end. You don't want to just spin out in one. You want to recognize, all right, I'm going through a growth period and I could do it with more grace than less. Maybe I need to meditate more during this time and really make sure I get the lesson out of whatever this growth period is. Okay. So who in here thinks they're going through anyone going through a gnarlier growth period at the moment? And you're like, yeah, a couple. Any nice growth periods? Like, all right, this is good grooving. This is good stuff. Cool. Lauren's like, I got it. um, yeah, I got some high fives. I didn't even know you could put your thumbs up in this class. All right, that's a new thing. Cool. Got hands up. Um, so just honor whatever growth period that you're in. Okay. It's totally cool. Half and half. Yeah. Just got out of your yuck. And in terms of breaking old habits, we break old habits by creating new habits, right? You kind of have to replace them. So we break the old ones by making the new ones, right? And your desire to come out of pain, needs to be substantial. You, a lot of growth happens, not all growth, but a lot of growth happens when we're like, I am just done experiencing this suffering and I'm ready to do whatever it takes to get out of it. That's the toughest way to grow. And tonight's class is on evolution, growth, healing, transcendence. Um, but that is the most common way to grow, and it's the toughest, right? So some of you are like, that's the only way I do it, David. That's my MO. I wait till the very last moment until I've burned all my bridges, till there's no other way out. And then I'm like, all right. There's this quote from Winston Churchill about America. He said, I think he said something like, America will always do the right thing after exhausting all its other options. And sometimes I think about growth that way. Like we avoid until we're pushed into a corner. Yeah. How can we switch? That's a great question. I always go back to the story of the Buddha leaving his palace and recognizing that people get old, people get sick, and people die, and that there's this inevitable suffering in life. And that's what woke him up on his path. Even though he hadn't really experienced that suffering, he just started to see it and decided, well, this can't be the only way, right? So sometimes just through insight, if we're really paying attention, we don't always have to viscerally have the growth period. So a visceral growth period is like, I'm learning about relationships. I'm deepening into some spiritual awareness about a relationship dynamic. And then I get hit with this tsunami of drama from a relationship, right? That would be like the visceral growth period versus, all right, I'm having insight and maybe I see it happening in other people, or there is a wave that comes at me, but I stay mostly grounded and neutral as much as I can. And I really am working my energy as it happens, and I don't lose myself for months on end, right? Or I don't get like, you don't have to manifest the worst physical experience to learn a lesson. There comes a point in spiritual growth where you start to recognize that. And if you are manifesting those really rough physical lessons all the time, maybe there's something in there for you to look at. Sometimes we need to get bopped up on the side of the head, right? And other times maybe we don't. Maybe we could just have some insight and not need to experience the drama or the trauma very physically. There's a quote, I think it was from either Elizabeth Gilbert or Brene Brown. They were in a conversation, so I can't remember who said it, but one of them said, the worst thing that's ever going to happen to you already happened. And I think for a lot of us that can be true, or some of the worst things, many of them. Being born could be a tough one, you know, childhood can be rough. So when we recognize that, all right, I don't have to recreate so much drama, I can internalize my growth, and it doesn't have to be a mess. I don't have to make an energetic mess all the time. Are you making an energetic mess right now? Anybody? You just throw the papers in the air. Ah! You just call everyone you know, I hate you. I hate you. Yeah, making a mess. What does Warren Buffett say? You know, if you're ever very emotional, wait 24 hours to communicate. Some friend of mine told me the other day she had a conversation like that with someone. She said, why don't you take the evening, think about this before you make a decision and communicate? Because she was very emotional. And then let's talk tomorrow. And the woman was like, okay. And she called 5 minutes later. It was like, nope, same decision. I don't think she was very neutral. You're not shifting in 5 minutes. That's pure frustration and anger. And even if the decision ends up being the same, the quality of your consciousness when you make it is different, and so the outcome might be different. Not every no or every yes is equal in nature. So what energy are you making it from? I'm motivated by energetic messes. Good. You get the award. Nice. Yay. 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 All right. So let's jump in a little deeper into it's quite the title. It's overwhelming, this title. Who thought of this title? Evolution. I can't even remember the whole thing. Let me look at it. It's evolution, growing, healing, and transcending. By the way, and I never make announcements. I'm making one. The next class is next Thursday with Desi at 10 a.m. Pacific. I always tell you guys we have another class coming up, and I never know when it is. I said it. It's next week with Desi. She's awesome. Go sit with her. Okay. So um, when it comes to there was a quote I wanted to start this part of the lesson with from Mary Oliver, where she says, on a summer morning I sat down to think about God. I love that quote so much. On a Saturday morning I sat down to think about God. And when I thought of this topic, evolution and healing, transcending, all of it, that quote just really stood out for me. And you know that not everyone's interested in growth or healing or evolution. You've probably dated someone that's not interested in any of those things, or you're or you have someone in your family, or you work with someone you're like, nope, they have zero interest in that. And that's totally fine. But if you're in this class, you're definitely interested in that. um, and so when that interest sparks in someone's soul, like there's got to be more to life than making money and getting by and surviving. Once we get out of like the gravitational pull of just survival, right? You know, like the hardest part for a rocket when it shoots into space is getting out of the Earth's atmosphere. It can go fly, you know, millions, hundreds of millions of miles after that. But it's that first, you know, 8, 10, 20 miles, whatever it is, getting out of the Earth's atmosphere that takes most of the fuel. It's so difficult to get out of the gravitational pull close to the ground. And I think the same could be said for our spiritual growth and evolutionary growth. So most human beings, almost their entire life is obsessive thoughts about money, relationships, survival, right? It's just like all consuming. If you were to take a survey of all the psychics in the world and say, what questions do you get asked? That would be phenomenal. Why has nobody ever done this? A survey of all the psychics in the world. What questions do you get asked? I can almost guarantee you 90% will be relationships and money, right? So kind of all really a lot of and a lot around survival. When we can step out of that and realize there's more, and there's a lot of different frameworks to look at it through. If you kind of look at it through the chakra system, so maybe the energy centers that you learn about in yoga, different modalities, those bottom energy centers are very much related to the earth, to grounding, to the human experience. And then the upper ones start becoming related to love, to vision, to intuition, to know sense of knowingness, to purpose, to spirituality, creativity, exploration, things that maybe you could, if you didn't have a human body, if you were in the form of a spirit or some other dimension, you could still experience and still work on and still grow into. So what are some of those energies for you that excite you and inspire you and that are pulling you upwards? So when we talk about transcendence and evolution, we really, in a sense, we're moving upwards. And part of that transcendence and evolution for many of us is healing. A lot of times the gravity that pulls us down has to do with pain from our human experience. And when we start to heal that pain, it opens us up to be able to move into some of these higher dimensions, which is why in this class we do so much healing work. Not because I think that is the only thing that's important, it's what I see most people need so that then they can then step into something deeper and start to transcend. But if you're spinning out in some trauma or something you can't heal, and I'm like, well, let's transcend, that's not going to happen, right? That's why the Buddha, when he started with his teachings, he started with what? Suffering, right? His first teachings are the Four Noble Truths on human suffering and coming out of suffering. But what happens when you come out of suffering? Life can't just be suffering. What else is there? So, as you start to come out of suffering and transcend out of that space, what else is there for you? What is life about beyond survival, especially since there's 100% chance none of us will survive, right? There's 100% chance in our whole lives we're chasing survival, and there's no chance we're going to survive. And at the same time, there's something so much deeper to pay attention to. And the higher you go in these transcendent realms, higher dimensions or higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. Um, the more difficult it becomes to put these experiences and these places and energies into words. So if you're having a hard time finding words to express these kinds of experiences, that's a good thing. You know, if somebody comes to me and they're so conceptual with their experience, then I always kind of I wonder, maybe they're just kind of in their heads. That's why spiritual people always sound really woo woo. You know, it was like I like saw this like color, and there was like an energy, and it was like everything was one, and it was like they just moved their hands like this. It was like they're trying to bring something into words that's very difficult. And the kind of odd part about this whole thing, I think, where a lot of people on the spiritual path, maybe they get a little stuck or lost, they think transcendence means just like leaving their bodies, totally stepping out. um, but what I like to teach and the way I like to do it is the more we can get kind of grounded into our bodies, really heal the human experience, heal the suffering, heal the pain, and be as human as possible, that's the only time we're going to have a true kind of transcendent experience and get to keep it. So yes, you could take ayahuasca or mushrooms or acid or something, have a very transcendent experience, but you don't really get to keep that experience and integrate it in the way you do if you do it yourself and you really face your pain and you're here in your body. Um, I think it's easy to transcend and disappear into the clouds to never return, right? Bye bye. I think it's much more interesting to transcend and stay and be a human being and serve and love and give and create, right? That's what I'm more interested in anyway. So try to be as practical as I can in this class and with this work. But let's have some fun with growing and transcending, and let's see where it goes for you. I have no idea where it's going to go for you or what your next step is with your transcendence, with your evolution. But maybe I could give you a little bit of a hint, because I've worked with a fair amount of people and I've watched them go through these processes. So usually, if I'm working, for example, one-on-one with somebody and we go really deep, we usually get to a place where they find some kind of awareness about an energy that they're working on and developing an understanding about as a being. So, oh, I get it. Healing is really about this, or oh, okay, creativity looks like this for me. That's what it's about, right? There's like some deep understanding through life experience and coupled with awareness and usually some compassion that that bakes into their being after a while. It's not a conceptual thing, and it's not something that happens overnight. It's something like they deepen into, and it's like a realization that matures. So our realizations, they need time to mature and develop and deepen. Whenever somebody uh, comes to me and all they do is talk about spirituality and their growth and their process and everything they're experiencing, and it's like this endless, just going. I know that they're still processing a lot of it just in their analytical mind. Um, there comes a point where it just bakes into who you are and you talk about it less and you just start to live the energy more and more. That's what we're going for here, I hope. So, what is some of that transcendent evolutionary energy in you? Where is it? What is your soul moving towards? Maybe this lifetime you're here to learn deep levels of healing. Maybe you're here to learn deep levels of connection, creativity, oneness. Maybe you're here to really understand enlightenment inside of a human body. Everybody's is kind of different. And the way I like to see it is almost like a crystal or a diamond. And in this lifetime, it's like I'm working on this facet and on this facet and on this one. Um, Maybe you work on all of them in one life. I have no idea. But usually, in my experience, I see somebody working on a couple of big ones in a really deep way. What are those for you? Yeah. Transcendence means what? I love that question. Thank you. Um, well, let's see what it means to you. One of the things I was describing a little bit earlier was the gravitational pull of survival and of the kind of lower human energies sometimes that pulls us down, and being able to grow through that and see beyond it, that there is purpose beyond, you know, the 90% of the same couple of questions people ask psychics about. Yeah. And then what it means beyond that is I don't know. I don't know how far your consciousness can go. I'm not sure what it wants to evolve into. Who knows? Maybe you have some trippy ass experience like we did a few classes ago, and you're like, I want to be the consciousness of a star. That is what I shall transcend to, David. And someone else is like, I want to be a puppy. Who knows? Who knows? Or I want to take pain and understand it deeply and completely accept it and be who I am and then see how I flower. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So let's meditate. Any questions before we jump in? How do we start to figure it out? Well, that's what the meditation's for. Part 2. This is where Jonah, who helps me edit these classes, she goes click, and then she separates the meditation from the lecture side. Jonah, part 2. She's going to be laughing watching this. Can we be stars again forever? That's a great question. Forever. You want to be a star for, you'll get bored of shining. You know, how many nuclear explosions do you want to experience inside yourself? So much hydrogen. Oh, the hydrogen. uh, I have no clue, honestly. I don't know. Why not? You could probably be whatever you want. Awesome. But right now, you are being a human being, which is probably a lot harder than being a star, to be honest. Being a human being is a complicated mess of emotion, isn't it? It so is. So you're quite a brave soul for taking this incarnation, right? All right, let me take an incarnation where the lifespan's short. I fall deeply in love with people that I'll eventually lose. Spend most of my life trying to survive and understanding how I ended up with psychic amnesia on this planet. No clue where I came from. Now I'm in this body and I have a short time to figure this whole thing out. And this guy named David wants me to meditate. Here we go. What is happening? All right, let's start our engines. How cool is that, though? I mean, if you're that aware that you're asking those questions and you're ready, you're already transcending. You're already in the process. So you're doing great. One of you's like, I'm not doing great, David. Even if you're here, you're doing great. Let's go. Let's have some. I love starting meditation with some amusement because, God, when I used to teach in person, I'd say everyone close your eyes, and it would be literally like a bunch of boot camp soldiers. Hold my breath so everyone knows that I sit really still. I'm so good at this. You know, no, 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 no. We don't need that. I'm going to show David I sit real still.